For years on end, he successfully managed to stay under the radar until he got too big for his own good, though nothing could stop him. When a ship full of his coke got busted by the Spanish police, he ordered his men on the ship to let it sink, and so they did. When police recovered the sunken ship to conduct their investigations and seized the coke, they were in for a surprise. The coke wasn't there anymore, and there's only one particular reason for this. This is the story of Fikri Amellah, the Moroccan king of the hashish trade. Very little is known about Fikri Amellah's personal life, making it a bit harder to understand what made him the man he is today. If there's one thing he did extremely well, it was staying under the radar. There's little background information about him, no prior mugshots or anything. We know he was born at the end of the 70s and grew up in Al Hoceima, Morocco. Understanding the place he grew up in is vital to his story. Ever since the 1970s, Morocco is internationally known for their cultivation of hashish, and by now, they are the biggest producer of hashish in the world, according to the United Nations. In 2021, 73,000 hectares of land was used to grow the product, mainly in the mountains of the Rif. The Rif Mountains are located on the northern part of the country, right across the southern part of Spain, and that's crucial for Fikri's story. Al Hoceima, the place he grew up in, was also part of the Rif. It was not uncommon for men from small cities like Al Hoceima to be involved in smuggling hashish to Spain. So, 2 decades ago, that's exactly what Fikri started doing. It first started off in small batches, getting it across the water in every which way, such as smuggling it via regular slow ferry trips from Morocco to Spain that would take 1.5 or even 2 hours. However, at one point, Fikri was smart enough to deploy a well-known tactic for smuggling across the sea, the use of speedboats. These weren't regular speedboats though. The engines on these speedboats were modified to increase their speed significantly. They are also known as narco jetties or narcolanchas, and these could reach Spain within only 20 to 30 minutes. The speedboats would dock at a small pier, where the hash would then be handed over to members of his organization in Spain, who would distribute it further into the country. As time passed, the shipments got bigger and bigger. Think thousands of kilos of hash, multiple times per week, netting Fikri and his organization a lot of money. To launder the proceeds of his drug trade, Fikri created a large network of companies, often operated on paper by his family members. Most of these companies were cash intensive. For example, he owned and used 2 restaurants in Barcelona, not because he had always wanted to own a restaurant, but simply because it was the perfect way for him to launder his money. The majority of the cash went into funding new shipments. The shipments kept getting bigger and bigger, but that did not go unnoticed. At the far end of 2019, Spanish police began investigating several different people who were suspected of being part of Fikri's organization, and that's when the trouble started. Meanwhile, he made a major decision. Fikri decided to use his existing routes and network not to only smuggle hash into Spain, but also coke, which is much more lucrative. Obviously, this also meant more risk. The prison sentences for smuggling coke compared to smuggling hash are significantly worse. But Fikri had thought about this. In an attempt to reduce the risk, he simply would use his network to purchase the coke from South America and then smuggle it to Morocco. From there, he would drop the drugs right in front of the Spanish shores onto a boat of a different organization that would be ready to pick it up. By doing it this way, he would still earn a lot of money, but did not necessarily have to smuggle the drugs directly into Spain. However, he did not know that right before he made this decision, Spanish police started investigating his organization. In February 2021, Fikri orchestrated a large shipment of an estimated 1,800 kilos of coke that would be shipped on a merchant ship called Nehir from Brazil to a point near the Galician coast. Just like I explained, once arrived, the 1,800 kilos would be offloaded and dropped into the sea, where multiple smaller boats would pick it up and move it ashore in Spain. Unfortunately, things did not go according to plan. On the 23rd of February, the ship was intercepted by the Spanish naval vessel Serviola. A boarding team from the National Police deployed onto the Nehir to search the ship. However, it quickly turned into a rescue mission. As the Nehir was rapidly taking on water and started sinking, the boarding team saved Nehir's 9 crew members before arresting them, and they also seized 1,800 kilos of coke they found aboard, with an estimated 90 million euros on the European market. According to the Guardia Civil, the suspected smugglers had opened some device that caused the rapid flooding of all the compartments of the ship with the intention of not leaving any trace of its illicit cargo, and in little more than 2 hours, the ship sank completely. You may ask, how did they know it was 1,800 kilos of coke if the ship was sinking? Remember, Fikri's entire organization was under investigation. That's how they knew about the shipment. What makes this even more interesting was that not much later, the sunken ship was recovered and docked in the port of Gijón for further investigation. However, to their total surprise, every single kilo of coke was gone. The investigators were left in awe. How was this possible? Their only conclusion was that Fikri must have called in divers to take out the coke. We know bricks of coke are usually sealed pretty well and airtight, but after being in the water for that long, do you think Fikri was still able to sell them? Let me know in the comments. Nevertheless, the Spanish were about to deal another blow to Fikri and his organization. They found out that some of his associates were in the midst of preparing themselves to smuggle a very large amount of hashish. The plan was to take advantage of a fishing vessel that was laying in the port of San Pedro del Pinatar in the region of Murcia. During the preparation that took more than a month, police investigated everyone involved, as well as the vessels that could potentially be used. On the 6th of October, it was go time. Investigators observed how one of the persons of interest hid a refrigerated truck in the vicinity of the fishing port. This truck would be used to move the hash out of the port. At the same time, one of the fishing vessels they were investigating left the port, although without any fishing gear. The investigators knew what time it was and called in reinforcements. After waiting a few hours, the fishing vessel returned and started docking. Simultaneously, the refrigerated truck approached the sites and got to the boat as close as possible. Shortly after the truck was parked, multiple men started carrying bales of hash from the vessel to the truck. They had just started when the investigators got into action. They rushed to the vessel and truck and arrested 2 Spanish men and 1 Moroccan man. After everything was unloaded, the investigators weighed over 4,360 kilos of hash. This shipment was orchestrated by none other than Fikri. About 2 weeks later, Fikri saw yet another shipment fail. This time, not due to an investigation into his organization. Moroccan customs officer in the port of Tanger had gotten suspicious of a strangely sealed container that was scheduled to be shipped to Belgium. Upon opening the container, they found 40 duffel bags containing 1,355 kilos of coke and seized it all. Meanwhile, Fikri seemed to have always lived in a very secluded and quiet life in Barcelona, despite making millions. He lived with 4 family members in a regular flat in Barcelona, and he looked like every other resident in the building. However, outside Barcelona, he lived a life full of ostentation, frequent luxurious vacations all over the world, parties on expensive yachts, expensive cars, and even more expensive watches. An end to all that was nearing. After nearly 2 years of a thorough investigative collaboration between the DEA, Belgian, French, and Spanish police, they decided it was time to take action. Officers of the Spanish Guardia Civil made Fikri an unexpected visit in December 2021. At around 6 in the morning, they barged into his very sober flat located in Poblesec in Barcelona. Fikri had just woken up and was sat behind his dinner table having breakfast, surrounded by 5 phones and 2 notebooks. He was already working on coordinating his drug transports on the sea. Fikri wasn't the only one arrested. His entire organization got taken out over the course of 2 days. In his house, they found 1 million in cash and watches with a combined worth of well over $1 million. In total, 16 houses were searched, 16 more people got arrested, and €6 million worth of watches, cash, real estate, cars, and other goods were confiscated. According to neighbors of his, they rarely talked to each other in the building. I knew that a Moroccan family lived there, but who they were and what they did, I had no clue. They were discreet, a neighbor said. Thus far, there is no word about the trial against Fikri. So for now, we don't know what he's exactly accused of, nor how much time they want him to spend behind bars. Spanish newspapers say he may be suspected of smuggling at least 117,000 kilos of hash into Spain and at least 3,300 kilos of cocaine. As always, I'll make sure to keep an eye on it for you when things become clear. For now guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please do me a big favor and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're nearing in on 100,000 subscribers, which is my dream. Also, be sure to leave a like as it helps a lot too, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts or ideas for a new video. See you in the next one.